It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Wow. What a day. What a day in the nation's capital. Bob Menendez. What a dirtbag. I got to be honest, what a dirtbag. But Senator Robert Menendez, accused of acting as a foreign agent, according to a superseding indictment filed by a federal grand jury in Manhattan today. The indictment says he provided sensitive U.S. government information and took other steps that secretly aided the government of Egypt. And you go, how? Why? Bob, what are you doing? And this is a guy on the Foreign Affairs Committee. He should, as John Fetterman said, and he is spot on, time to oust him, time to get him out, time to go, Bob. You got work to do keeping yourself out of jail. Now, here's something you're not going to hear. Here's something you're not going to hear. You're not going to hear a single Democrat come to the defense of Bob Menendez. Nobody's going to go, oh, he should, oh, no, we're going to, no, nobody. Unlike the Republicans who have been kind of doing backflips around this George Santos character, who, I got to tell you, from the beginning, kind of a sleazebag. Now, remember, with the ouster of Kevin McCarthy and now the realization that nothing is going to get done, Republicans are like, okay, now we're going to deal with Santos. The indictments came down, a whole bunch of them, because now we're finding out a whole bunch of sleazy stuff that we already knew. Understand, Republicans said that they were going to introduce a resolution to oust him, going to get rid of him. Only they didn't. And then Santos went on the attack, like Republicans do masterfully. You got to give him credit. He then turned and threatened all of the Republicans by saying, I do want to remind my dear colleagues who all but one have deep, long, troubling careers in politics that I will have a lot of time on my hands to return the favor in the most expedient fashion mankind has ever seen. Yeah, okay, George. Or whatever your name is. Honestly, I don't even know. But here's the thing. You had Republicans at his defense. Not going to hear any Democrats defending Bob Menendez. He should go. And today. Now, that's simple. Now, hey, not going to have Steve Scalise kick around. The David Duke with baggage has dropped out of the House Speaker race. Turns out he started off with a little bit more support, and then the more he opened his mouth, the more he talked, the more things worked out, the less support he got, which, kind of entertaining on a certain level. Gotta be quite honest. It has been. I'm not going to say fun. It's been interesting watching some of the responses from Republicans. You look at Republican Mike Rogers, who left a meeting clearly not happy. As my oldest daughter used to say when she was a little kid, he don't happy. He called the 8 Republicans who caused this mess traitors. Called them that 4 times. Used the word traitors 4 times. Said they've paralyzed the House by removing McCarthy. And yeah, duh. Because, look, Scalise was never going to get to the 217. Not going to happen. And now Rogers is saying, Democrats have to help. No. No, this is where Democrats, sit back, let the Republicans do their thing, which is nothing. Now, as the day went on today, as I said, Scalise somehow lost support. I don't know how that happens. I don't. Which is why you now have moderates in Congress on the Republican side, if there are any. This is the weird thing. They keep saying there are moderate Republicans, and I'm not seeing it. There's really far MAGA, extreme kook caucus, Scott Perry, Matt Gaetz, that kind of clan over there. And then there's just your run-of-the-mill crazy Republicans who are not, they're not the party of Reagan. They're certainly not the party of Eisenhower. I don't even know that they're not the party of W. Bush. I don't quite know who they're the Trump party. This is where we are right now. But they're saying, hey, there are center-right Republicans. There's a center-right Republican governance group. And they think that they should empower the temporary speaker so that we can be functional. Because they've already given up on the fact that they themselves, that the Republican Party can do anything to govern. They're admitting this. They're going, we just have to give up. We just have to go. We're going to change the rule and make it so the temporary guy can just hang around long enough to finish out the term. And we're going to lose power anyway. So this is what it appears to me. Now, I agree with Andy Ogles, the Republican from Tennessee. Weird, I know. Another extremist. But he said, look, the Republicans got to lock themselves in a room. I agree. Got to lock yourselves in a room. In fact, should lock themselves in a room and cage match style. Whoever crawls out gets to be speaker. I think that's it. Now you got Tom Cole, the Republican from Oklahoma, who my friend Bob Ney thinks could be the sane, rational one. If there is a moderate, this is supposedly the guy that could possibly be. He's warning of a potential coalition speaker. Someone that all of the Democrats and a handful of Republicans then choose, which Republicans would not like. And he said, look, if people aren't careful, if they aren't very careful, they're going to be open. They're going to open the door for a coalition speaker, which is not something that we should want to happen as Republicans. No, you shouldn't. You should be somewhat functional, but you're not. Because as Representative Troy Neal says, the Republican from Texas, we're broken. He walked out of the Republican conference meeting and basically just said, we're a broken conference. And you go, yeah, you're a broken conference. Mike Kelly from here in Pennsylvania, likened the situation to a football team calling in the play in the huddle, lining up on the line of scrimmage, and then not snapping the ball because nobody's listening to the quarterback. Love that. Now, here's the thing. It's all fine, well, and good, that we have no functional House of Representatives. It's all fine, well, and good that the Republicans aren't going to do their jobs and still get paid, oddly enough. But here's the thing. The president is saying that he's going to be needing to request more aid for Israel. He's going to be requesting aid for Ukraine. There's also talk of requesting aid for Taiwan, as I understand. And my first thought when I saw this story is, the president's going to make a request for more aid. And I'm going, to who? Who's he going to request it from? There's nobody home. There's nobody in the house. There's no functional house. There's because all monetary, all purse stuff, all cash stuff, all money stuff has to emanate from the House. Sure, Joe Biden can do their work for them. He can write the bill and go, here, this is what I want. The Senate can go, hey, this is what we can agree to. Here it is. But it still has to start in the House. This is the thing. Now, I look at Republican Dusty Johnson from South Dakota. He says it's really, really hard for this Republican House to govern. We have an incredibly tight margin, and frankly, some members who have a hard time getting to yes on almost anything almost every week. It's because you have poor leadership. You have a party that is broken beyond repair, because everyone's searching to be in the spotlight. Everyone wants to be the star. Everyone wants to be, on Fox News. They want to do the podcast circuits. They want the attention. There used to be a word for that, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that on terrestrial radio. It starts with a W and ends in or. But this is who these people are. Their attention, Now, here's the weird thing. If you remember, prior to Republicans taking power, Nancy Pelosi had a smaller margin. And amazingly, we didn't shut down the government. Amazingly, we didn't, oust the speaker. Amazingly, we didn't do a lot of the craziness that we're seeing out of Republican-led government. In fact, we got stuff done, some really great stuff. Some historic stuff, infrastructure bills. We've got investments in the future. We got a CHIP Act. We got stuff done. And this is the difference between people who believe in government, believe in doing their job, doing an honest day's work, a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, and people who are just primping and preening for the cameras. And I think, again, Senator John Fetterman is absolutely correct. The U.S. is not sending their best and brightest to Congress. He was on with Colbert and said sometimes you literally just can't believe these people are making the decisions that are determining the government here. It's actually scary. And I agree. Now, here's the thing. Representative Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, Republican, said it does seem, as we've opened the Pandora's box of unrestrained ambition, people feel no loyalty to this institution. You go, really? I would argue your entire party. Again, and I hate saying this because I wish it weren't true, because we need a functional Republican Party, because we need functional people to do things that need to be done. But I go back to January 6th. I go back to the Trump administration. These are people who don't believe in institution. They don't believe in our government. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in this country. They believe in their narrow-minded ideology and their blind ideology of what they think this country should be, but certainly not what it is. But I got lots to get to and lots to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people on the talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Unions are making a comeback. More organizing in the last couple of years than in a long time. And the Biden administration being more supportive of unions than any president since FDR. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt, but I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
Well, this has caught the attention of some, hey, and it's good. It's good because we do need functional government. And here to share some thoughts, maybe got an idea. Let's get Steve in Chicago on line one and get some thoughts here. Steve, what's on your mind, brother?
Well, I wanted to say that I couldn't agree with you more with regard to the need for a functional Republican Party. I know that there are some people on the left, and I've spoken to a great many of them over the years, who would, given the choice, they would eradicate the Republican Party tomorrow. The problem being that would leave a large hole in the body politic because there are a large number of people in this country who actually adhere to many of the principles which the traditional Republican Party represents. And there are some that actually adhere to some of the crazy nonsense that the Republican Party has come to represent. So the idea of simply removing them entirely from the landscape and it would be just a country run by Democrats, that's a recipe for civil war and the destruction of our democracy. So yes, they need to exist. But having said that, it is not the responsibility of Democrats to help you create a functional party. And this idea that somehow the Democrats are going to bail out somebody so that they can be the Republican speaker, is ludicrous. McCarthy went on the air before he was ousted to basically blame Democrats for the ills of this country and what he was facing, rather than standing up there and saying, you know what, there are some sane Republicans, we want to govern. We know that there are some sane Democrats, they want to govern. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's have a meeting. He might have been able to remain speaker. Who knows? But no, as you have pointed out, there was a time in this country when it was my party came before me and the country comes before everything else. Today, it's exactly the opposite. What happens to the country, not my problem. What happens to the party, again, not my problem. It's my career and my agenda, and because we've gerrymandered so many of these districts into places where only the most extreme candidates can win, you basically have any number of Republicans who know better. They are adult enough to understand better, but they don't dare stand up and say the right thing because they're afraid they're going to be primaried by some wacko who's further to the right than they are. And I don't know what the answer is other than to say, somebody's got to show some intestinal fortitude and character in that party and stand up and say, you know what, it may cost me my career in this party. And it may take 10 years, long after I'm gone, for us to regain some semblance of normalcy and be a functional party. But, I'm willing to pay that price because my country comes before anything else. But today, no, it's a bunch of people who are, again, I can't say anything that's going to threaten my position because God forbid that I should lose the next election. Because, as a former congressman, that means I'm going to be homeless on the streets as if there's no other option for me. Come on.
No, you're right, and we got to get money out of politics. Every congressman I've ever talked to, every person who's ever left office said, the number one thing you got to do is you got to get money out of this game, because people are just too beholden to getting the attention to fill the coffers so that they can run for the next election. It's not about doing the work today, so that's a huge part of it as well, Steve.
Yeah, and congressmen want to be senators. Senators want to be presidents. And the fact is that over the past few decades, we have not managed to hold the line. Even we have eroded that demarcation between money and politics, such that the Supreme Court has basically said, well, hey, it's speech. Money equates to speech, so you can buy democracy in this country.
Yeah.
So if a handful of billionaires want to pass the XYZ policy, and for people who don't know it, this is possibly the greatest investment that you could make if you want any sort of public policy. Senators and congressmen are remarkably cheap to buy in America.
Yes, they are.
For what you get. You can, if you're in the defense industry, if you're in healthcare, you can go down a long line of public policy sectors, and you say, okay, how much does it cost to get my guys elected to Congress? To get a dozen congressmen elected, to get 5-6 senators in key positions elected.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Versus the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that they can then ensure comes to my sector, or monies that I don't pay to regulate my sector, or I don't pay in taxes.
No, you were spot on right, Steve. I appreciate the thoughts. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Let's go to Jack in Wisconsin on line 2. Jack, how we doing today?
Well, pretty good considering the craziness that's going on. Your previous caller, I think Steve was his name, I think he had it right. Ever since Reagan said the government's not the answer, the government's the problem, that's paraphrased. That's not a direct quote, I think. But in any case, ever since then, it has been the policy of the Republican Party to break the government, to show that the government doesn't work, and then blame the Democrats for it. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say is, in terms of the crazy gerrymandering, we're trying to do something about that in Wisconsin, by the way. Our gerrymandered legislature, from 46% of the vote, is about 65% Republican. But that's going to go before the state Supreme Court, and I think it has a very good chance of being changed, hopefully before the next election. And finally, I have a wonderful quote here from Jamie Raskin from an NPR interview, I think in January of 2021. And he said, "I wish the Democratic Party wasn't the only democracy party in America, but it is." And that really boils down to what the situation has become.
Absolutely spot on, Jack. Right on. And look, in Wisconsin, by all means, please, take back your districts, take back your state to somewhere near the sane line. I've been begging for that since 2011, but I appreciate the thoughts.
We have been working on that since 2011, too.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Call again. Let's go to Alice on line 3. Alice, how we doing? And what's on your mind?
I'm insane. What I wanted to say was this nonsense going on in the House is just crazy. And I don't even know why Steve Scalise was trying to get in there because, I was reading and he has multiple myeloma. And that's a very nasty cancer. And I know that because my dad had that and passed away from it. So, by the way, wanting to show a little bit of niceness, I sent him a message on Facebook and told him that I was sorry to hear that he had multiple myeloma and that I hope that he went into full remission.
Yeah.
But I hope that these people hurry up and get their stuff together because the world's burning and they're twiddling their thumbs. Have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it. No, I wish him well. I do. Look, he's got a blood cancer, and he's had it rough. I mean, he got shot not too long ago. He's got this blood cancer. Health-wise, I wish him well, a long, healthy life, all that stuff. I just don't want him as a speaker. I just don't want him anywhere near power or leadership or any of that because the guy is terrible. I mean, and we don't need that kind of extremism. Now the question then becomes, who is going to be speaker? Who wants to be speaker? This is one of those weird things where you go, the guy who wants to be speaker is the guy you don't want. Because that's the person who's doing it probably for all of the wrong reasons. I mean, I look at Jim Jordan, I look at Scalise, the people who threw their name in. I don't think the best interest of the country was anywhere near their thought process. It was about power. It was about control. It was about, I'm going to be able to wield the gavel. But here we are. And again, I go back to, we need to have a functional government. And, as people have already said, look, this goes back to Reagan. This goes back to, government's the problem. And we've been trained like Pavlovian dogs to any time we talk about our government, it's always got to be an attack line. It's always the butt of an attack. Instead of saying, look, we should be electing people who want to be functional representatives who are going to solve problems, who have expertise, not someone who just was able to raise enough money from billionaires or was able to win a popularity contest, but people who actually know something, want to do something, have a record of doing things to help we the people. Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Isn't that what it was meant to be? Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back. Stick around.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials, creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.